Lockport, Nova Scotia, known for its fishing industry, quiet streets, and also known for an annual event known as the Lockie the Lobster Knitting Festival. We're in Lockport, Nova Scotia today, just outside the Crescent Beach Center, where today wraps up a week-long event known as the second annual Lockie the Lobster Knitting Festival.
Well, we've had a very busy week. We've ended today with a mishmash of events here that everybody from the general public in Lockport could attend, plus any fibre enthusiasts, and we've had people from all over Nova Scotia. We've had people as far away from Grand Manan, of course Newfoundland and other areas. Ontario, we've had many guests that are staying at cottages and places that are available here in Lockport and surrounding areas. We started Monday. We had events at the shop all week long that were open to everybody, free of charge. On Monday, Cheryl the Pearl started her Lockport Loves Lace Knitting Shawl class that was held at the Legion for 3 consecutive mornings, in which they learned how to knit shawls. There was 3 different patterns, and they had their pick of one of 3. At the end, they were doing beads and all kinds of things. Anyway, that ended on Wednesday. On Thursday, we started here at the Beach Center with 2 days of events. We had Vicki Graham of Hooking by the Sea Retreats on Briar Island, who did a rug hooking workshop class for 20 students. It was a great turnout. We had a lot of other rug hookers from many other areas attend this event, as she had her fibers here for sale also, along with other knitters and whatnot that were coming to visit that day. And today we've had a whole mishmash, like I say, of events where we started out the morning with some knitters trivia. We also had our launch of our second pattern, which is Canada Hill Wild Blueberries Boot Sock. In 1934, the date when the Lockport Electrical Light and Power Company was incorporated, my grandfather had moved his family, which was all of them, from Amherst. 30 years before the days of automated hydro plants, he was willing to take his family of 4 children and 2 more that were born there later, which was my Uncle Bill and my Mum Ruth.
And we're going to need some tissues for Becky because it's very emotional.
Most of you have received this little pamphlet that my Aunt Margenie Townsend had done with Paragram in 1973. It tells about that particular thing. So hence the reason I wanted to have Canada Hill Wild Blueberry wool. This is the wool. We had the launch at my shop, which most of you attended, in March 31st this year. It's been a huge success, along with my other 3 colors, which most of you know, which is Lockport Greenway, Locks Island Lobster, and West Egg Cranberry. We had a model for that. Christine was on hand to describe some of it. There also will be a pattern released of the headband that will go with that particular pattern. And there are beautiful buttons that were developed by Melissa Wenzel from Westcott Bell Pottery in La Have. Stoneware buttons, I should say, that have blueberries and cranberries onto them that can be accessories for these particular hand knit items. We also then had a Mummers event, because Lockport will be hosting a Mummers Parade event on December 30th here in town, in conjunction with the Canada 150 events. We also, that was a great time. George, our mayor, ended up being our model, and he did a great job, as you probably have seen in the live feed that we did on Friday by Ian Swinimer's reports.
We're hoping as many people from Shelburne County or Queens County or wherever will hear about this and decide that Lockport is the place to come on December 30th. As a child, I can remember going mummering with an uncle, and also that mummers came to our house, knocked on our door, all dressed up. You have no idea who they are. And you welcome them in. They plunk themselves on the floor, dressed in these weird costumes of rubber boots and long john underwear and doilies over their head and sou'westers. And it was really quite incredible and almost impossible to figure out who it was.
And then we did a tribute to Christine and Shirley. They do so much for this festival for 2 years in a row. Without them, it wouldn't be possible to host this festival, between them creating patterns, flying from Newfoundland, doing the actual classes. We have a great time all week long with these guys. They're super people.
Oh, my dear, I've been knitting since I was a little girl. Everybody did back then. There wasn't, you know, the kind of entertainment that we have today. We learned for brownies and we learned to make a sock and all those basic things. And it was like more than 60 years ago. So maybe people learn for different reasons than they do today, but everybody learned when I was a kid. But it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I really took it up. I was a hippie living in New Brunswick, and we were doing all that kind of thing, back to the land and making everything, spinning yarn, trying to make all our own things, and that's when I really got into it. So I'd say for at least the last 40 years, I've probably knit every day.
So, you know, how important, you know, you've been coming to the Lockie the Lobster Knitting Festival for, you know, this is the second year now. You know, how important is it for you every year to keep coming back?
Oh, well, if Becky will have me, I'll come. Who would say no to this in the month of October? And Becky Williams, who is a genius and can make a living probably on the moon or anywhere, has just turned Lockport into a barrel of knitting fun for this week in October. Hopefully she'll keep on with it. There's an awful lot of work into it. She showcases so many people and their work. I think it's probably also quite good for the town. I was just thinking the number of times we go to the grocery store every day to get something to cook up in our cottage, to take to one of the events or to have people over. It must just be kind of a little bit of a tonic for the people of Lockport. But the girls around here are fantastic knitters. I found that. And they're not sort of spoiled like many are today. They have not had a lot of teachers come. But they have just somehow learned to be really first-class knitters. And like Becky said, they like to knit warm things, which I do myself. For most of our climate, most of the year, it is not like this. And very important, we love wool. They love working with color, they like working with real fibers, and they're very skilled here. So it's a pleasure to come and just show them a thing or two maybe they haven't learned before.
My name's Christine LaGrone, and I'm from the city of St. John's in Newfoundland. And I started knitting when I was about 6 years old, and I really loved the whole craft process. I went to a school that taught us all the crafts, knitting, crochet, needlework, you name it, they taught it to us. They taught us how to cook and sew. So I got hooked with knitting when I was really young, and my mom knit all the time. So I kind of got the bug at a very early age.
And, you know, as far as the Lockie the Lobster Knitting Festival, you know, how did you first meet Becky and you know, how did you first learn about this event?
Well, Becky had come to Newfoundland, and our niece Megan brought Becky and Sean to my little home studio called Spindrift, and there I learned all about, she was from Lockport, Nova Scotia, and her love of knitting and her shop. And I said, gee, Becky, you came all the way to visit me, I'm definitely going to come back and visit you as soon as I can. So then she came home, and she had done the orange wool. That was her custom color. She did that with Briggs & Little from the, you know, analyzing the lobster shells here in Lockport. And then my daughter decided, gosh, there's Lockie the beautiful golden retriever, my daughter loves dogs, and this custom color that Lori decided to do a Lockie the Lobster hat. And somewhere in amongst all that, just after that, Becky decided to do a Lockie the Lobster knitting festival. And then she had met Shirley somewhere via Facebook, I believe, in between all that, and we promised we'd come here because it sounded so exciting. I had no idea Lockport was this beautiful, though. I've always had an interest in the knitting history on the island portion of Newfoundland and how important wool fiber was to our survival like 300 years ago, 200 years ago. Like, if you had if you didn't have something to cover you up warm in Newfoundland, not so much because it doesn't get cold like Alberta and Northern Ontario, but it certainly gets super damp cold. You'd die of hypothermia pretty fast there with the damp chill. Wool was important to our survival, and knitting was important to our survival. And it's the way it evolved with all these plain natural colors and then those intricate diamond patterns in the midst. And people didn't go around dyeing up fancy colors and stuff. They just used what the sheep in the town could supply them. And it touched at my heart, you know, it touched at my roots as a Newfoundlander, and I thought it was really important to pass on our cultural heritage as it was portrayed in knitting. I thought that was a really important thing to carry on and to tell the history. So all my products have little tags that say, you know, why I knit it and why it looks like it does. You won't get modern and funky other than our fashion colors, you know, now that it's 2017. But generally speaking, it was really to bring out the history of knitting in Newfoundland.
We did a story a little while ago on your business. We kind of showcased, you know, exactly what you sell, what you do. We're showcasing this event here this week. Let's go back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about how you got into knitting and how important it is in your life.
I've knit for many, many years. Back years ago, I was taught, and I've continued to knit over the years, mostly just out of a habit, hobby, whatever. Give it up for a bit and then start it back again about probably 15 years ago. And it became almost a bit of a stress relief for me at times with being busy in the shop and stuff. I continue to do a lot of knitting for the shop mainly, not so much myself. I'm very pleased, like the support I have is unbelievable from all parts of Nova Scotia. They're coming far and wide, and we're always hosting events and stuff that locals attend and different stuff like that. So I'm quite happy with how the shop is going.
Well, my final question for you, what do you think of Lockport? It's a beautiful little gem here in Nova Scotia. What do you think of it?
Well, I'd take my citizenship up right now if I possibly could. Maybe I'll find an old bachelor here who needs a few pairs of socks knit, but Becky's probably got them all covered. But it looks like a delightful place. Very delightful place. You could have quite a nice life here, I think. So they keep it on the map, don't they, all these people? I know there's big fishing business here. It's not just knitting. But it is, I also get a sense of older Nova Scotia ways here. Guess maybe a little further from the city. The sense of community that you have for sure. The fact that if you have something to say, you can walk to the town hall. It's maybe half a block away. That is pretty enviable, I'll tell you that. It seems you could get your business done here pretty quickly. Also, the historic houses and the streetscape. That I knew about that when I was a student at Dalhousie. It just got on the go then. And that is utterly fascinating to me, that preservation effort. So I like this place. I could come here pretty quick.
Oh, it's rejuvenating. It's good for the soul. This beach, the color of the sand, it even sparkles. It reflects all the light. It changes depending on the time of day. The beach, the surf, the color of the ocean, the people, all the cute houses and the architecture here. It is just like a paradise. It is so comfortable and so stress-free. I can't think of anywhere else people should want to go visit. I'm not one of those ones who wants, go down south and go to really hot climates. But the fact that we've been here 2 Octobers in a row and it's warm enough to wade in the ocean, every single day, I find that's absolutely tremendous. It's a hidden gem in Nova Scotia for sure, and Atlantic Canada. I think everybody needs to come to Lockport, Nova Scotia, for their love of craft, nature, art. If they need a bit of inspiration or they need a bit of medicine for their soul, this is the place to get it, guaranteed. Just the sound of that surf out there today. It's magnificent.
How important is this event and other events for Lockport as far as bringing people in and showing, not just what this event has to offer, but what the town has to offer as well?
I think we all need to realize that we need to market together in order for this to happen, to create Lockport to grow. Some businesses are great to work with. They're pitching in continuously, and it's nice to see stuff grow, and we do need a few more businesses to locate here in Lockport. And with events like this, we do need a lot of things to make this happen, so it would be great if we can continue to grow and prosper and have one another marketing one another and working with one another would be wonderful.
And as the second annual Lockie the Lobster Knitting Festival concludes here in Lockport, Nova Scotia, all sights are on next year as knitters and fiber enthusiasts from across the country will once again converge here from October the 1st to the 5th, 2018 for another fun-filled week of knitting fun. Reporting in Lockport, Nova Scotia for Ian Swinimer Reports, I'm Ian Swinimer, and we'll see you next year!